going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Hills Are Silent podcast, where we chop it up about the games of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Another week down, another week of video games. Got some interesting stuff to talk about this episode, as we always do. Thanks for joining us. I'm Two Tone the Artist.
And I am Mitch the Peach.
Let's do this, guys.
Yeah.
All right, so Mitch, you've been playing something new. Again, you always got the lowdown on the exclusive games I've never even heard of. Never heard of this one either. So, what you been playing?
I've been playing a game called F.I.S.T, which is abbreviated as Forged in Shadow Torch. And I actually just finished it before the pod today, so I am excited that I can talk about the entire thing as a package. It is a 2021 Metroidvania video game developed by TI Games, which I could not find any other games that this developer has created. I am playing it on Xbox Game Pass. That is how I found it. My buddy Swanee, who's a listener on the pod, shout out Swan, me and him were just looking through Game Pass games, and the art style really struck me right away. So I just decided, I was like, hey, I'm gonna give this a try. I'm hit or miss on Metroidvania style games, but I wanted to keep using my Game Pass subscription, so I dove in just to check it out.
Yeah, and I gotta say, when you told me it was a Metroidvania style game, I immediately assumed 2D graphics. Now I see it's 2D, like you're on a 2D plane, but it's 3D graphics. Yes. But I expected something like sprite-based or more cartoonish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the graphics are definitely a little bit unique with that style. Essentially, the game follows a rabbit called Rayton, who I guess they call him an anthropomorphic rabbit. He's a former ace pilot who, using a giant mechanical fist, hence the name F.I.S.T, rises up against the robotic legion that has invaded Torch City in an effort to liberate it from its oppressors. Very, deep story, which is kind of not really what you expect from some Metroidvania games. They're usually not super in-depth story-wise. But I will say, kind of a spoiler, but I feel like the ending of the game really sucked. I honestly didn't even understand it by the end. I think they were trying to tease something for maybe another game if they create it, but kind of a letdown because I actually really enjoyed playing the game as a whole. And I want to tap into what you were saying with kind of the atmosphere and the graphics. That's really what brought me into it, and really what kept me into it. Some of the jazz is a really big musical theme within that. There's a couple towns within Torch City that has some really good jazz music that I have my headphones on and I'm playing. I can really just vibe to it while I'm running around in these certain towns. So some really cool music.
Okay. Hold up. Question.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you play your Xbox with headphones on?
No, not usually, but if I'm in a party chat with some friends while I'm playing, then I have my headset on because I'm talking to them through my headset, but I can also listen to the game sounds through it as well. I got a little thing where I can turn it to turn the game audio up and then turn it to make the chat audio louder. So
Got it. Okay. I thought maybe you were just chilling in your living room just with headphones on to listen to the game. Were you playing it really late at night trying to be quiet for the downstairs neighbors or something? That's what I was wondering.
There are, at my old place especially, when people could hear very easily through the walls, I would do that from time to time because I kind of wanted to be respectful. And there was a time when somebody slid a note under my door saying I was being too loud, probably because I was playing a video game with the volume up quite a bit or watching a movie or something. So I was trying to, but this new place, it's brick walls, a lot of concrete as well. So I never hear a peep from anyone else. So I'm assuming they don't hear me either.
Yeah, usually it goes both ways. So do you remember exactly what you were doing when that person slid the note under your door? Were you playing video games?
No, I think it has nothing to do with video games. I think I was out late, probably drinking with some friends, came home from my Uber probably around 2 a.m. and I just walked into my house at 2 a.m., probably drunk and hungry, made myself a sandwich, maybe was walking around with my shoes on too loud and people could hear the footsteps under them or above them. Just, I don't feel like I'm ever that loud. I'm a pretty
What?
quiet person,
Dude, so you weren't
but
even playing music or like watching a movie with the speakers on, or it was just literally you walking around late at night and somebody was like, you're being too loud?
yep, just
Okay,
like that.
they can piss off because that's so stupid. Like, there is a fine line between. That's why I'm glad I don't live in an apartment anymore. There's a fine line between being respectful and people needing to realize that they live in an apartment surrounded by other people who also inhabit this apartment. Like,
Yep.
walking around, like, I remember having upstairs neighbors, and I swear I thought they were just like dropping bowling balls every 10 minutes.
I've
Like,
definitely
there
had
would be
that too.
loud thuds where I would, out of nowhere, I'd be like, okay, did somebody just get murdered and their body hit the ground? But that, like, I never complained about. But if somebody was like blaring music with the subwoofer on for hours on end and just got the music so loud,
Yeah,
that's a different
that's
story.
different.
But
Yeah,
somebody
and
just
I was not
moving
doing it.
around, I would never complain about that. But yeah, I used to be that guy. I remember as a teenager making beats in my apartment, and yeah, the downstairs neighbor lady, she hated my guts. And crazy thing is she worked at the in the office for the apartment complex, so she worked there and she lived there.
Oh shoot.
And she would come up banging on the door, and I'd open the door, and I was an arrogant, like, idiot teenager, and she would complain about my music, and I would just tell her to piss off, and she's like, oh, my baby's trying to sleep downstairs. And then a couple of times she called the cops on me,
Oh man.
and the cop showed up, and even the cop was like, I really don't even hear it, but we got a call, so can you please turn it down? Like, I was not that loud with it, but I think it was just the fact that I had like some big speakers that the bass was just too
The
much.
bass was kind of, yeah. Well, the
But
funny thing with my scenario was the person who slid the note under my door called essentially she called what it was sleepy time hours. So she's like between the hours of 6 a.m. and or like 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. Those are sleepy time hours, and you need to be quiet. I'm like, who do you think you are? Like setting hours for me? Like, excuse me?
yeah, I mean, what if you work like second shift or something, and then
Right.
that's when you're up at night because you got to work because you work in the evenings or something.
And it wasn't like it was a Wednesday when I'm coming home at 2 a.m. and stomping around or just walking around because I don't really like I'm ever stomping. But yeah, it was like a Saturday night, so it's not even, but
Yeah.
I digress.
Yeah, I will say though, a really good pair of headphones is the solution for apartment living. So when I got older and became more respectful of my neighbors, I got a really good pair of studio headphones. So if I made beats or mixed music, I did it in those headphones, and my mixes turned out good. So you don't necessarily have to have huge speakers to enjoy music or to create music or really do anything. Like,
Yeah.
headphones, win-win situation if you get a good pair. Anyway, that's totally sidetracked. All right, so back to the
Yeah.
game. So yeah, one thing I have to
Yes.
say is the art style is very strange because it's almost like dark and gritty looking, but yet
Hmm.
you're playing as like a what is it, anthropomorphic animal?
Anthropomorphic rabbit. Yep.
Yeah, it's just a weird character to have in such a dark, gritty level design. And
Yeah. The whole, I guess the entire universe that this is in are all animals. So they're all different types of animals that obviously act as like humans. Yeah, so a bit strange, but very dark tones. Obviously trying to liberate from, this robotic legion. And you play as a character who has a literal mechanical big fist, and he's just beating the crap out of people the entire game.
so is
So
it
it
like
took me.
nonstop action, or is there moments where you mentioned being in like towns and stuff? Are there moments of peace when you're not in combat?
Yes. Yeah, there are times like you can go back to I teleported frequently back to this one specific town where I could like upgrade or or like turn in my collectibles that I got to certain people. And that was where it was very like peaceful, like one of the only peaceful area within Torch City at that point, or one of them.
It does look
So
like this is a high quality game. Like just looking at the graphics and
yeah,
detail, and even like the cutscene movie that they showed a snippet of, like it just blows my mind. So many video games get made, and I know without promotion, a lot of games really don't make much money, but it takes a lot of money to make a game.
yeah.
So it seems like a lot of work probably went into this, and the game just kind of flew under the radar. I always wonder how these games turn a profit.
Yeah, I'm interested in that because it came out in 2021 just for PlayStation. It then got ported over to Switch after that, and then just in 2023 recently, it came over to Xbox via Xbox Game Pass. So I'm really kind of curious how the sales went from that, and maybe that's kind of the reason why it kind of flew under the radar a little bit. But honestly, like really well done. Like you said, like they must have put a lot of time into this, and I feel like it deserves the respect. So I'm glad I have a platform to talk about it. Took me about 15 hours roughly to beat. It was actually pretty challenging. Like I'm like a lot of Metroidvania games are challenging because of like boss fights that you have, and there were a lot of boss fights, and they were in very different environments, doing very different things. There is a essentially, while you do have a robotic fist, you have three separate weapons that you work with throughout the game. You have the huge fist, you have a drill, and then you have a whip. And each one of those weapons has their own skill tree that you upgrade throughout the game to give you more to your arsenal to basically create combos and do, the most damage possible. Within that, there are passive skills that you get that you upgrade along the way. These are kind of ones that make navigating the map, and then even some of the fighting easier. So with that, there's like a dash that you get eventually. A lot of like Metroidvanias, you get stuff that makes mobility easier. So
Mm-hmm.
there is a dash that you get, and you can upgrade that dash continuously throughout the game to get like you can dash through enemies at some point. You can dash through like electric like fences and whatnot. There's a parry that you get at one point so that you can parry. I mean, it's very much along those lines. There's an underwater breathing mask for underwater levels. There's a thing to freeze time. There's a thing to break certain barriers so you can get to like different types of collectibles. So a lot of those passive skills along the way as well. And then even more, there are secondary items that you get. So like there's so much going on that it was really kind of, overwhelming at first. So there's like a secondary item that you can use that can also be upgraded through the game. And those are carrot juice, and that will heal you when you're going through levels. There's a homing rocket that you get, a dummy that you throw out, and then it blows up if the enemies run into it. And then there's these melee sticks that if you like time it right, you can counter the enemy or something like that. So along those lines, there's all those things. So all those moves that you upgrade for those three weapons, those take SP essence. And while you're playing through any Metroidvania game, you find a lot of secrets along the way and a lot of things to buff you up. There are many secrets that you find to give you things like more max SP essence, more max HP health, and then more max EP, which is your secondary. So you can use those secondary items more. So you can use the carrot juice more to heal more. And then with the SP essence, you can use the special abilities that you get for your weapons that you unlock through the skill tree more. So basically, like taking your time, finding secrets along this map throughout, as you get more of those passive skills, it allows you to get to new heights, to break different walls, to reach different areas. It rewards you for basically doing all of that finding of secrets and whatnot. So by the end, by the end boss, like I had actually gone through, and it was actually really fun to kind of like dash around and use different skills to get through these specific areas in this game. But I felt pretty beefy to the point where like I had almost max health. I had quite a bit of EP that I could use to heal myself, and then quite a bit of SP. I could use those special skills on the bosses to make it easier for me. I mean, there's way more to it as well. I mean, there's data discs that you find, another collectible. That's what you use in combination with the currency that you get, so you can actually upgrade your abilities. You have to have data discs for that. There's piggy banks that you can get, which is kind of funny with everything being animals in the game. The piggy banks, you just keep smacking the piggy banks if you find those, and it spills out all the currency that you collect that you also have to use to purchase certain things, like skills or keys to get secret items. It's a bunch of crap. There's also plant seeds, and plant seeds are things that another like collectible that you find that you turn into somebody in one of the towns where all the good jazz music is going on, and you turn it into them, and then they give you currency. And my cat is freaking out in the back here. And then along those lines, there's also posters that you can collect, and those are more for more cosmetic things. So you collect posters, you turn those posters in, and you can use those to give you like different customizable fists, different customizable drills. Like for instance, I had a drill that looked like a carrot, and then I had a fist that actually was kind of paying homage to Hollow Knight, which is one of the another Metroidvania that I'm a big fan of. They kind of had like an art design like a Hollow Knight, which I thought was pretty cool. So yeah, like a ton of stuff to collect. Any Metroidvania game, a ton of stuff to collect, a ton of bosses to get through. Very challenging combat. They really want to like you to make sure you're doing a bunch of combos and really learning like, you know, the boss's patterns and moves and whatnot. So yeah, it was challenging, but like honestly, I had a great time playing it, and can't say enough good things about it. I really, if people are interested in Metroidvanias, I definitely would consider you giving this a try. It's they put a lot of work into it. And it's really smooth combat. Like, I mean, a big thing with Metroidvanias is you really want that smooth combat, and you really want the smooth as you're like bouncing through, you know, level to level. So it's, yeah, I mean, a lot of different terrains, a lot of different art, a lot of different music. Excellent job.
Cool. And you said you were looking at it when you're talking to your buddy. Did he end up playing through it as well?
No, he never ended up playing it yet. Him and I were looking at it, and he said, "Oh, this might be up your alley, Mitch. Really cool art style, you know, and if you're interested in playing a Metroidvania game." And I was like, "Yeah, I think I might give it a try." And I think he got into Starfield, and then once he got into that, there was no turning back. So
Yeah.
I waited until I finished this to play Starfield. But I will say that it is what I'm playing now that I've finished Fist, and that's my teaser for now. I'm not ready to talk about it, but I'm glad I waited and played Forged and Shadow Torch, because it was. I usually like it takes me a little while to sometimes beat Metroidvanias because I'm not very good at, you know, beating bosses in those kind of games, but I worked my way through it.
Nice.
But yeah, that's really all I've been playing and all I really want to talk about for now. But you've been playing a game that I've actually considered playing as well, and you've actually talked about in one of your pickups that we had in a previous episode.
Yeah, man. When I went to Gulf Shores this past July, I do my typical game hunting when I'm out there, and I came across a copy of Prodeus for PlayStation 4. Now, I had heard about this game. I knew that it was kind of like a retro style shooter, and something told me to pick it up. I was like, I hadn't seen the game anywhere. I just have a feeling that not a lot of physical copies were made of this. And I'm like, this is as good of a game as I've heard it is. I want a physical copy of this. So I figured I might as well snag that up now. I think I paid about $30 for it for a new copy. Figured I might as well get it now before I find out later that I really like the game, and then by then the price is insane on the collector's market. So yeah, I picked that up in July and then finally got a chance to play it, and yeah, it's freaking awesome. I highly recommend it. It is basically like, it's totally like Doom. And I don't mean Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal. I mean like the original Doom that came out in the 90s. It has that vibe and that flavor. It's purposely made to look like an older game. Like even the enemies are sprite based. So they're like 2D sprites, just like they were in the original Doom. And there's a lot of graphical settings in the menus where you can kind of fine tune the look that you like you can make it look super retro, where it's literally mimicking it being like 200 and the resolution's like 320 pixels or something. And you can also toggle on and off having the 2D sprites. So if you prefer to have the actual 3D enemies and have it a more modern look, you can do that. If you prefer having it like 1080p, 4K, or whatever higher resolution, you could do that. But me, I'm like, this is supposed to be an old school style shooter. So I kept on the 320 pixel resolution, kept on the 2D sprites, and I turned on like the CRT filter. So I have it totally bit crunched into a real retro look. And to me, that's the style they were aiming for. So why not lean into it? This game is super brutal. So for the original Doom, there's actually a mod called Brutal Doom that just ramps up the gore and the violence. This basically is more like the Brutal Doom mod than the original Doom, because it is just non-stop heavy-handed violence, heavy-handed gore. Every time you shoot an enemy, just so much blood splatters everywhere, and the enemies blow up and jib in little bits. Just real crunchy and satisfying. What'd you say?
I want to go back to where you were talking about like you can mix those filters if you want it to be high res or low res. I think it's a really cool feature that they do in games, especially like remakes. Like I know I always go back to the Master Chief Collection, but I remember playing Halo 1 remake on Master Chief Collection, and every level you could toggle and it would go to old graphics, and you click it again, it'll go to remastered graphics, and you could do it every level, and you could just whenever you wanted. If you want to just go play in the old graphics, you could do it whenever you wanted.
Yes, I loved that. And there's a few other games that do that as well, but I think more remakes or remasters should do that. Because, yeah, I want to see firsthand, like I'll get used to the new graphics and won't realize how much they changed and enhanced. So it's nice to be able to toggle to the old version and toggle back to the remaster version and just be like, whoa, they really did add a lot of detail.
Yeah, it really makes you appreciate the work that they put in to remaster this and, do everything to make it look so pretty and, modern.
Yeah, and that's just technically impressive to me, to be able to switch between two completely different graphic styles. Just at the press of a button in real time.
Yeah, it's wild to me. Yeah, I remember doing that when I was playing Halo 1 over again, and I was amazed.
So Prodeus, it's been a lot of fun. It is very simple levels, very simple game design, but it's classic, man. Sometimes games are just fun. Sometimes games just get too focused on the wrong thing. And it's just like, I just want to play a game. I just want to shoot some stuff. I don't need this super overcomplicated skill tree or just all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, sometimes that's nice. Sometimes I'm totally in the mood to dive into customization stuff. But sometimes I find myself just spending too much time in a game, in a menu, when really all I want to do is just be shooting monsters and just blowing stuff up and seeing a bunch of gore and just that primal, aggressive gameplay. And that's totally what this is. Now, there is a multiplayer. I have not tried that yet, and I really don't know how many people would be online playing this game. I've heard other reports of people saying there's like nobody in the servers, but I don't know. I'll give it a try for myself. But really, a Doom-like game like this, I'm really just in it for some single player. And another cool thing is it comes with a very detailed level editor. So essentially, after you beat the campaign, you just have thousands upon thousands of fan-made levels at your disposal you can download, or you can make your own levels, which that's always a nice touch. I was never one to really dive into those level editors. Like even with Halo, I never got too deep into like the Forge mode, but I know a lot of people really love that, and I had some friends that made some real cool stuff in Forge. Did you ever mess around with that?
I never made any levels myself, but I definitely played a lot of Forge-made material from the Halos. I like what the Master Chief Collection and even just the Halo 3 did. They made a whole mode like centered around like crazy Forge concoctions that people created in game modes that they made throughout it, and put a lot of community made content into a full playlist that you could queue with. That was pretty fun, and like some of those fan made things actually turned into full-fledged game modes that they brought into like to Halos. Like, I know Rocket Race was like a big thing that was like a Forge thing, where basically it's you and a buddy that are on a mongoose, and your buddy on the mongoose has a rocket, and you're shooting other people that are on mongooses and whatnot, and you're trying to race through a track to see who finishes first. So like I think it's cool that they did that for Prodeus, because like, I mean, a lot of fan made content can really turn into great content for years to come, like you see in Halo.
Yeah, it's where creativity can really shine. I remember seeing a review for a game that released not that long ago. I can't remember the name of it, but basically the whole concept was you make a map and you try to make it as brutal as possible. And then somebody goes through it. I think it was like either a third-person shooter or a first-person shooter. So it's like it's all community-made maps, and the whole point is to kill the player. So if you're the one creating the map, then that's your style. You try to make it as brutal as possible, but then on the flip side, you have people who are actually playing your levels and trying to survive and get all the way through the end.
It reminds me of something like a Mario Maker, like that. Those are great. I love playing Mario Maker, but like here and there on my Switch, and I only go and do the fan made stuff because those are so much fun to like. They even like organize it by difficulty, so if you don't want to like do something that's impossible at a fan made, you can tone it down a little bit, but it really adds a different layer on those Mario games.
Yeah, how do they rank the difficulty? Is the person creating the map adding? Are they the ones saying what the difficulty level is, or is there some type of algorithm that determines the difficulty?
There's probably an algorithm, I want to say, that maybe like they factor in like how many like pitfalls or traps or whatever they put into it. There has to be something like an algorithm, because there's like a mode called 100 Marios, I think is what it's called, which is the one I play, where like you just pick like a difficulty, and then they just give you random user generated maps that are from that difficulty, and you have 100 lives to try and get through like an entire like quote unquote Mario world.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, it definitely a cool idea. And like, yeah, fan made content can really turn into so much more. And yeah, you're seeing that all the time. Did you ever mess with the game called Dreams, which was a PS4 game?
Nah, I've heard about it though.
I never did either. It was literally like they were trying to sell it as like it was the world at your disposal. You could create anything you wanted in it.
Yeah, I did watch some videos of some of the stuff people had made, and it's just crazy how different everything looked. It was hard to believe it was all coming from the same game. So it really looks like there was a lot of possibilities with what you could make.
And another one that's like just recently been created is Epic Games has allowed people to do a lot of creator tools within Fortnite, and people in Fortnite are creating like mimics of other games within Fortnite, and it's wild to me. There's a popular game, crap, I can't think of it. It's not called How High. That's a movie. there's a game where like you're literally just trying to go. You're trying to climb up as much as you can, and then and if you fall, like you have to start all the way over and start climbing up again.
I just heard about that game today, actually. Yeah, it's Only Up.
Only Up. Thank you.
Yeah, it got delisted.
How High, You did, yes.
The creator took it down.
He said it was like I guess it was too much like graphic or something like that. I'm not sure.
I don't know. The article I read was comparing the guy to the guy who made Flappy Bird, basically saying like it was just too much success too quickly and too much stress. And yeah, I don't know. Who knows, man? Some people just they just wanted to make a game. They didn't want attention. They just wanted to create something.
Not to go off on a huge tangent, but that's like the guy who created Wordle, like the popular like daily word game that everyone was playing on a daily basis. He said it was too much for him. He couldn't keep up. He sold it to the New York Times, and now they just do it, which good for him. He made a lot of money from it.
What was that again?
Wordle.
Wordle.
So it's it's basically like you're just typing in like there's a word of the day, and you only have a certain amount of guesses of the word, but like when you type in a word that you think it is, it'll tell you like, oh, like there is actually like two R's in this, but they are in the wrong place right now. So like it'll highlight yellow if they're like correct letter in the wrong place, or like green if it's the right letter in the right place. And you get a certain amount of guesses to figure out the word. But people were doing it like crazy for a while. It got really popular, and I haven't heard too much since.
Wow. My only gripe with these games that are solely based on user-based content is eventually it's all going to be gone. As soon as they shut down the servers, I think it happened to Little Big Planet, or
it very well, like the older Little Big Planets, very well may have happened.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering that, but yeah, eventually at some point these servers have to get shut down, and then all of a sudden you lose access to just years of amazing creative work. It's just gone.
I mean, funny story with that. Go back to Halo. In Halo 3, you could put like, you had your own like video like gallery that you could put for like clips that you had like in like games you played in Halo 3. And I had this really good one like where I used the flare in Halo 3, and I like completely duped a guy and grabbed the flag and like got out of there. And you could like create it so you can go back and look at the other player. Like you can like follow a camera and look at the other player afterward. And it just shows him like looking around for me, and he can't find me because I like completely bamboozled him. And like I want to see that again, but like it's gone.
I forgot all about that. Yeah, a lot of games I remember during the PlayStation 3 and 360 era had those like video playback modes where you could go back. It would save, I don't know, 20 of your last matches, and you could go back and actually control a camera and slow things down, fast forward, rewind, and just see what was going on. And like you said, I think you could even make clips from it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and you can put them in there like your like file share gallery, like highlights or whatnot, so people can look at your profile and watch your content. Which I thought was pretty
holy
cool.
Crap, man! That was so ahead of its time. Like that's
so ahead of its time.
That's crazy how advanced that was, even especially for back then. I mean, I'm sure games have that nowadays, but I know a lot of games have like photo modes and stuff. But
Counter-Strike does a really good Counter-Strike Go does a really good thing with that, where you can go back and watch full matches all the way through in different camera angles with different points of view. And my buddies and I usually do that to try and check for cheaters. If we think somebody's cheating on the other team, we'll go back after the match and be like, look, see how if he's shooting a little faster than he should be because he already sees us because he's walling or something like that. So it's kind of fun to go back and look.
But yeah, I remember that. And you basically were making like your own highlight reels, and other people could check them out. Man, that was It's been a lot of cool stuff, like, man.
Hilarious screenshots, like hilarious like videos. Somebody was actually hacked it at one point and was putting real life like photos in there, and like people were like, I mean, it was children at the time were like, like idiots were putting like porn in their file sharing like thing. It was kind of it got dark for a while, but
always does, man.
Somebody when you give people power,
hack into it.
You give them a little power, they'll completely take control.
Dang. Anywho, I highly recommend Prodeus, especially if you just want something mindless to just crank through and kill.
And it's on Xbox Game Pass again. It's the one I downloaded it because you had hyped it up, and I'm gonna give it a try.
Yep. I think I never did play that Brutal Doom mod that I mentioned earlier, so I think after I beat Prodeus, I'm gonna go back and check that out. But anyway, right now on Steam, it's on sale for $17.50, and I mean, I paid $30 for it, and I feel like I got my money's worth, so it's definitely worth $17.50. Anyway, that's Prodeus. The next thing I have to go over is in Atlanta. I don't know if I've ever told you about this or if you've already heard about this. Are you familiar with Dragon Con?
No, when you briefly mentioned it when we were prepping, that's the first time I ever heard of it.
All right, every year there is a big convention in Atlanta called Dragon Con. it's similar to other conventions like Comic-Con or anything else like that, but it's huge. And it just gets bigger and bigger every year, and just I don't even know what the attendance is at this point, but it's like tens of thousands of people. And it's not just people from Atlanta. People come in from out of state to attend. And it's just, there's like at least 3 hotels they rent out to hold this convention. And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. People rent out all the hotel rooms. I got a buddy who lives in Atlanta, but he still will rent a hotel room downtown just to be right there by the action when he spends the weekend at Dragon Con.
That's awesome.
Anyway, tons of vendors, tons of panels, all kinds of stuff to do, and just cosplay, just as far as the eye can see. Just all the amazing costumes people come up with, all kinds of different characters. I've only ever gone 1 year. I think that was in 2019, and I only got a day pass. So I met up with my buddy, the one who goes every single year and stays for the whole weekend. I just got a day pass. And one of the things we did was go to the costume contest. And that was amazing to sit through and watch. But in addition to the costume contest, actually at the convention, they also do a parade on Saturday. And they'll have everybody who has a cosplay or has a costume, they're welcome to join in and be part of the parade. And people will get grouped together based on the theme of their costume. So like all the Star Wars characters are all together. All the Ghostbuster characters are all together. All the Resident Evil characters are all together. And it starts on one side of Peachtree Street or Peachtree Road. I can't remember. There's so many streets and roads in Atlanta named Peachtree. It's like ridiculous. I can't even keep track. And then they go from one end to the other, and tons of people show up to sit down and watch. So this is the second time that I've gone downtown to see the parade. I think I went in 2021 maybe. I don't know. It's hard to tell. It's hard to remember, I mean. But anyway, went to it this year. Took my mom. I asked her. I was surprised that she said yes and that she would want to go. But I was pleasantly surprised. We took the MARTA train downtown because there's just no parking when the parade's in town. So it's easier to just take the train down and you end up right there where the parade is going to be. But I love all the video game characters. So right off the bat, they jumped it off with Halo. And they had a ton of Master Chiefs, like full-blown professional Hollywood movie-grade Master Chief costumes. It was very impressive.
Like if there's any of those conventions, there's always a Master Chief, because I've gone to Comic-Con a few times, and there's always a Master Chief decked out in the full. I am so jealous and want one of whatever the heck he got that from, because they look legit.
Yeah. And my other favorite part is the Resident Evil section. And I think to me it was bigger the last time I went, but there were still quite a few people dressed up. I mean, you've got all the Umbrella Corps, Marines or mercenaries or whatever, and of course you got Chris, Barry, Claire,
Albert Wesker,
Leon, Albert Wesker, all of that. And then,
that's what I would want to be if I did it. I would want to be Albert Wesker.
Yeah, and of course you got the zombies too. So I'll be showing some of the B-roll footage of that. But I swear the last time I went there was more people, but it still was a pretty good turnout in Resident Evil characters. And we also have an amazing, amazing haunted house here in Atlanta called, oh my god, I'm drawing a blank on it. Netherworld. It's this massive haunted house. Again, it's just one of those things that just gets bigger and bigger every year.
Mm-hmm.
And what a perfect time. They have all these costumes. It's about to be October. Perfect opportunity to advertise. So they have their own section in the parade where they have bunch of monsters, and you just get to see their incredible designs and their incredible costumes. I had a buddy that worked there, and he took me behind the scenes to see where they do all the makeup and the costumes, and it is incredible. I mean, it is, again, it's like Hollywood level studio for making costumes and doing creature effects. And they end up, there's all kinds of weird stuff too. I mean, I'll throw some photos up. There's just some crazy, quirky stuff. People are so creative, so clever. I remember this one instance, I did not really get a good shot of it, but there was a car painted to look like a car from Borderlands.
Oh, wow.
And the guys were dressed up like Borderlands characters hanging out of it.
Oh, that's sick.
So that was neat. And yeah, and there was this creepy guy who was dressed up like an evil Ronald McDonald. And that was a very disturbing costume. I loved it, though. And I mentioned earlier, they have the Star Wars guys. They're the Star Wars section. And that is always the biggest section. Of course, the majority of people are going to be Star Wars characters. And that's always the finale. And it's just this epic finale. Because first of all, you see just in a whole fleet of stormtroopers coming down the street. You're just like, dude, I'm in the middle of downtown Atlanta, and there's literally like an army of stormtroopers marching down the road. And then every other character in between, and some really cool vehicles too. Some people deck out their vehicles for that parade. Of course, somebody always has to have a Batmobile, and it's pretty awesome, man. So anybody that's in the metro Atlanta area, if you have not checked out the Comic-Con parade, check it out. It's always on Saturday morning, every Labor Day weekend of every year.
Dragon Con, right? You said Comic-Con.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I meant Dragon Con.
Yeah, we need to time a visit here, because between this and then the Southern Fried Gaming Expo, these are two things that I would really be interested in going to. And yeah, got to make it happen next year.
Yeah, man. There's so much great stuff always going on in Atlanta. But yeah, those two things you definitely have to come down for. All right. See how we doing on time. All right. We got some time. Let's knock out these last couple topics we have.
Yeah.
We'll try to go through them pretty quickly. But the other day, my buddy Brennan came over, and we just wanted to jam on some Guitar Hero and some Rock Band. So we did that, and we were switching between the two. He would pick a Guitar Hero game, we'd play a couple songs. I'd pick a Rock Band game, we'd play a couple songs, and we kept bouncing between the two franchises.
That's
and then
so
we landed.
Cool, and I am sorry, I'm so jealous that you can just literally say, "All right, here's my collection. Pick one, pick a song, and you can just switch back and forth the entire time." That's too cool.
Yeah, man, it's a beautiful thing, and we were jamming for like 2 hours at least. But yeah, he ended up, I don't know if he picked it or I picked it. One of us picked the Beatles Rock Band. And you had told me about that one. You said you had that one and played that a lot. So this was my first time playing it. And it definitely stands out. It is... A lot of the Guitar Hero and Rock Band games just feel like rehashes of the previous ones. And sometimes, like, the first couple of Guitar Heroes are like a blur in my mind. Like, there's not a whole lot of real distinction between them. But the Beatles Rock Band is so styled to the Beatles. Everything about it just oozes like Beatles vibes. And it's awesome. Also, the Beatles music is amazing, which also helps. But we were playing it, and it was the trippiest game. I was like, dude, this game... I know the Beatles were huge into psychedelics, and that was a huge part of their image, but this game is very psychedelic. And I could only imagine what it's like playing this game on like LSD or mushrooms or some other psychedelic. But it seemed like every song started out with the Beatles just in the studio, and then as the song ramped up and started reaching its crescendo, you just... all of a sudden the visuals just get super crazy, and you're going on like some fantastic voyage into another dimension. Like, we're playing it, and like 2/3 into every song, I'm like, I'm trying to keep up and pay attention to the guitar. I'm just like, what is even going on here? Like, this is just, what?
It's a magical mystery tour.
Really? And then all of a sudden the song ends and they're just back in the studio. And I'm just sitting there like, man, just flabbergasted. What just happened? So I got to thinking, what other games would be considered psychedelic? And whether that be intentional or unintentional, I think the ones that we picked out in this list are largely intentional. And I also always wonder, do some game developers take psychedelics, and is that where they get a lot of their game ideas from? So I know we removed it from the list because we already talked about it, but Psychonauts, yeah. Who was the guy who made that again?
Oh, crap.
I can't think of his name. Double Fine Studios and...
it's Double Fine.
Anyway, they got to be doing some psychedelics at Double Fine because all their games are like really trippy.
Their art style reminds me of like Tim Burton almost. Like,
yeah. So anyway, that was a good choice, but we already dove pretty deep into that one. So the other one you picked was Katamari, and I've never played this, but I've heard of it. So I see on Steam it's actually listed under We Love Katamari Reroll plus Royal Reverie. What does that even mean? Is that like a remaster or a complete edition or something? That's quite the name.
Yeah, so I loosely played the Katamari franchise, not a ton, but yeah, the reroll aspect is them. I pretty sure remastering one of the Katamari games.
Yeah, looking at the description, I see now that it does say they're remastered. It's a remastered version.
Yeah, and then it says improved graphics and gameplay enhancements and Royal Reverie. I can't even say that. Royal Reverie. Roll Up Katamari is the king of Cosmos in his boyhood. I don't know if that's like an addition, maybe an expansion to the remaster. You're getting deep in the weeds at that point, but
this game just looks so weird.
Oh, strange. You said like are developers sometimes on psychedelics when they're creating games? Somebody had to have been on something when they're designing these characters. And the whole goal of these Katamari games is to just roll everything in a level up into a giant ball. So essentially you're just rolling through maps and just getting bigger and bigger and collecting like everything in a level. And I don't understand the complete purpose for doing it, but I know the objective is to make your Katamari ball as big as it can be. And the bigger you are, the bigger the things you can collect in the level.
Funky, man.
But yeah, funky art style, very colorful, very trippy. Yeah.
And is everybody's head like a sushi roll or something? What's up with their heads?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because some of them are like normal heads, but then like a lot of the characters though have that like sushi roll aesthetic.
All right, how much is this going for right now? I'm curious. $30. It's a little rich for my blood, but
$30, but not on sale. So
yeah,
I'm sure.
I don't know. Maybe someday I'll try this. It pops up every now and then. I'm always like, what the frick is up with this game?
Yeah, I don't even know. Probably play at a friend's house back in the day or something. But yeah, it's different.
All right, so the next game I wanted to talk about is a game that is literally called LSD Dream Emulator for the original PlayStation, for PlayStation 1. That's an interesting story about this game. It was an artist who released, I think, just 2, maybe 3 video games, but he wasn't necessarily really into game development or being a game designer, and he made it as an art project. There's really no purpose to the game. It's like the original walking simulator, and you're just going around from area to area, and anytime you either touch something or bump into something or just have spent too long in one location, it transports you to another location. And apparently a lot of the ideas were pulled right out of one of the developers' dream journals. So it definitely has a very strange dreamlike vibe to it. And it is very bizarre. The art style is strange. Apparently it was released in a very limited release in Japan only. And I played it before we started this episode because I'd heard about it time and time again. Thanks to the internet, it was rediscovered and developed kind of a cult following. But at the time, it was very obscure and had slipped into obscurity for decades. So I gotta say, it's an interesting concept. And also, anytime I play an old game, I have to put myself back in the time frame when it was made. If I'm playing a game from 1997, I got to go back to what games were like in 1997. I can't compare it to anything contemporary. But even having said that, I probably would not have liked this game as a kid when I had a PlayStation 1 and that was it. Because it's just, there's no gameplay. You're just walking around. There's like no point to it. A lot of the areas are recycled. And it's just, like 15 minutes into it, I was like, all right, I get it. I think I've seen everything there is to it. Definitely trippy, definitely colorful, definitely weird. At one point, some vampire thing came out of the air and made me jump. But other than that, I don't think I'll ever dive into it again. But you were watching me play. Any thoughts on that game?
Very trippy. The walking was very interesting in it, with your guy kind of like bobbing up and down as you're walking, and then like the footsteps sound effects were kind of funny to listen to. But yeah, just very bizarre. There was the part where you'll probably show it on the B-roll, but where you're going into that supermarket thing that just completely like is separate from any of the aesthetic that game had, and is just like an actual like recording of somebody in like an actual store, and that you were talking, like you said that you had heard of prior to. That
was weird. Yeah, between levels there was just some actual footage of like a marketplace in Japan, and I swear I just watched a YouTube video that took place in that exact same area. So it's just very bizarre. Speaking of trippy, it was very trippy that I'm playing this game that was made like 30 years ago, and there's just some random footage of a marketplace that I just saw in a YouTube video that came out like a week ago.
It reminds me of those videos that you were showing me. I think it was you that was showing me of like there's a whole like YouTube rabbit hole of people that are like watching like PlayStation 1 release day, 2000 whatever, and you just watch people in like a GameStop like buying PlayStations.
Yeah, I love watching. It's just like people's home movies of just random everyday ordinary stuff, but from decades ago. So yeah, it'll be like shopping at Kmart in 1998 or something. But it's just trippy, like just seeing footage of everyday life from the past is literally like going in a time machine.
Yeah, it's very nostalgic.
Yeah, it's trippy when it's times that I lived through, when it's stuff from like the 90s or the early 2000s. Because like you said, like you and I were alive then, so we can kind of go back to that and be like, whoa, and kind of relate to it. But even watching footage from like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 40s, 20s, whatever it is, even that is just fun to watch. It's literally a looking glass into the past. Whether it was our lifetime or even before that.
Yeah. It's funny how you can always like know like where, like what time period certain things in, when you know what console you were playing at the time. I guess like it could kind of like place you in certain time periods, like where you were at this time because you were playing an Xbox 360.
Yep. And a lot of that footage when it's like shopping at Kmart or something, and they go by the electronics section, and it's got like a GameCube kiosk and some kids playing it, or they're in some like old arcade in the mall, and you see the old arcade machines. Yeah, it takes me right back to that time. 'Cause that's memorable. I mean, when you're a kid and you're in Kmart, where do you go? You go straight to back then you would go straight to the electronics section, hop right on a kiosk and play the demos or watch the demo videos until your parents were done shopping or whatever reason you were there.
Yeah, I remember even like at the malls, like in like the random like Macy's or J.C. Penney portions of the mall, they would still have a Nintendo 64 kiosk just in the middle because they knew that moms would bring their kids to go shopping, and they're like they're like, hey, just go play the N64 over there and just let me do my shopping. So like I would be in there on the N64 playing like SSX Tricky or whatever the heck was on there, and yeah, good times.
Yep. All right, so anyway, this LSD game is, like I said, it was obscure, only released in Japan, and there were not a lot of copies of it. So, and it has a cult following. What does that mean to me? In my mind, it's probably highly collectible. And sure enough, you hop on eBay right now, you're seeing listings for $1,480, $1,200, $1,600, $1,000, $1,000. Somebody's asking $2,254. And the cheapest copy on here is, well, I'm not going to count stuff that's for bids. Look, only buy it now. Looks like the cheapest copy is like $750.
Yep.
So highly, highly collectible. People are paying $700-$800 for this game.
It is a nice looking PS1 disc, though. I mean, the yellow is very appealing. I don't know if it's $750 appealing, but you know, to each their own.
Let's see here. I think you can specifically look at show only sold items. Let's see what this actually. All right, so yeah, some recently sold. One just sold about 2 weeks ago for $880. Another one just sold for about $1,200. One sold for $740. Somebody got a deal, I guess, on that one. Another one sold for $1,000. Another one sold for $750. Another one sold for $790. Another one sold for $1,300. I mean, people are after this game. And
I just want to know who these people are, like that they're buying these. I just really want to know who these collectors are and just their thought process of buying this.
Exactly, because it's not that good of a game. That's what blows my mind. All right, some things become collectible that are just not that great. And I'm not bashing on this game. It wasn't a horrible game. It was neat and trippy, but it's not. It wasn't super fun. There's no gameplay to it. It's just a random kind of walking simulator. And yeah, who is dropping $1,000 on this game? And what are they doing with it? Are they playing it?
Maybe they're taking drugs and playing it.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But it's just a weird phenomenon that some stuff just, for some reason or another, becomes collectible, even though it's not like super fun or amazing or anything in particularly extraordinary about it.
With my collecting, I like to collect things that I want to play, though, with my game collecting. It's usually like things that I can see myself actually at some point putting in a disk drive and playing it. You know, I just can't see myself collecting things that I don't think I would ever like be interested in playing like myself, because it's like, then why am I, you know, I don't have a passion for collecting this thing then. Then it's just another game on the shelf that I'll never touch.
Yeah, and I remember I had gotten, what was that game called? 3D Dot Heroes for PlayStation 3. I found it at a pawn shop for $5. And it's become one of the more collectible games on the PlayStation 3. And I played it, and it was not very fun. It had good reviews online. Some people liked it, but I played it. I did not enjoy it. I didn't think it was particularly the great of a game. And so at that point, there was no reason for me to keep it. Like, yes, it's collectible, but to me, again, it's not something I would ever play again. It's not something I was interested in. So, yes, I mean, if I buy any games, I have a very specific taste, so my collection is a lot of the same genres. I mean, it's first-person shooters, it's horror games, it's stuff along those lines. Of course, I have some things to switch things up and keep it fresh, but yeah, I don't get anything just because it's collectible, and if it's not a game I'm gonna play or have an intention of playing, I'm not gonna get it, especially not for $1,000 or whatever if it's something extremely expensive. But I know some people just like to covet collectible items, which, yeah, I don't know. I don't always understand it. But speaking of collectibles, Mitch, you found a very interesting collectible that's coming out. So we all have nostalgia for the Xbox 360. And I'll go ahead and let you explain it because you're the one who found this and probably can explain what it actually is.
Yeah, it's been kind of all over the video game socials recently, but a Target exclusive. Got to make sure we give props to Target.
Yeah, why Target? First of all, this is random, super random. Second of all, the fact it's a Target exclusive is even more random. But anyway, carry on.
Yeah, very very random. I guess there are really no Toys R Us's anymore, so maybe that would have been a good thing for the Toys R Us's back in the day, but I digress. Anyway, you will soon, if you would like, for $150, I have to put that in front, you can buy yourself a brand new Xbox 360, except it's not an actual Xbox 360. It is essentially what they call a Mega. I think Mega is the brand that they're essentially Lego, but not Lego. So it's a 3x4 scale Xbox 360 collector set. So you are going to put this thing together. It is 1,342 pieces that you'll be assembling that looks just like not only the Xbox 360 console, the guts of the Xbox 360 console, an actual Halo 3 box with disc inside, and an Xbox 360 controller. So, shout out to Mega Brands for, creating this thing. I don't know what prompted the partnership between Xbox and Mega in the first place. I also don't know what prompted them to maybe say, hey, let's do an Xbox 360 with Halo 3. Like, it just seems incredibly random to me. But for $150, you are able to purchase this, assemble it, and display it wherever you would like.
Okay, so first off, it is kind of cool that the controller and the console actually light up. I didn't realize that when you first showed me this article.
I did not either, but that is pretty cool.
Second of all, it does come with a disc of Halo 3, but again, I don't think it's an actual functioning disc. I think it's just a model of it, the Halo disc. Which that is cool that they landed on Halo 3. I mean, with all the Xbox 360 games, they could have went with Halo 3's pretty iconic as a 360 game. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, let's go to that price point. For $150, I could go to the pawn shop right now and buy like 3 actual Xbox 360s that actually play games, as opposed to just buying a Lego style fake one. And it's still pretty large. 2/3 scale is quite large. So this is not like just some tiny little Lego thing you're gonna sit on your desk or on a shelf. Like, you need some significant shelf space to display this thing.
Yeah,
and then
over
again,
1,000
my mind
pieces,
is
like, that's
go ahead, what are you gonna say?
Yeah. Over 1,000 pieces, like, it's, while 150 is a bit steep for my liking, I mean, at least you're going to get your money's worth in the amount of work you put into assembling it, and then, the space that it takes up displaying it.
Yeah. I mean, it is cool that, like, literally it has, like, the motherboard and graphics card and everything inside of it that you're building.
The whole guts, man. Interesting.
But Lego stuff is pretty cool, and I always liked Lego stuff that actually looks like real items. But But
It's saying in this article that the it says the pre-orders have already sold out, so people do want this.
Okay, okay. I mean, I love the Xbox 360. I totally have nostalgia for it, but I would have a real 360 on my shelf way before I ever had a Lego model of one. But again, there are Lego fanatics. Legos themselves can be very collectible. There is the enjoyment in building the stuff. I mean, there's tons of Lego sets, and people just love to put them together, and then you have something to show for it. You're like, check out this thing I assembled and built. There is a lot of appeal to Legos, but I do know that in recent years, Lego sets have just gotten crazy expensive. And yeah, $150 is a lot of money. That me personally, I'd put that towards video games, which I think I would get a lot more enjoyment out of than a Lego set. But I will say, I love the box this thing comes in. That is very nostalgic, yes. And it looks very close to the original Xbox 360 box. Even that was a nice touch.
Yeah, I wonder if it matters that it's not actually Lego brand, it's this Mega Brands. But, apparently it doesn't because it's already sold out the pre-orders.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of people are like, it's got to be Legos. They're real brand loyal, but anyway, definitely a cool item. I like how
it says, do we really think it should be 18 plus on the box? It says 18 plus. Is that just kind of a...
What? Usually they're like 7 and up because they don't want little kids swallowing the Lego pieces. But yeah, I don't know why a 17-year-old couldn't have this or a 16-year-old couldn't have this.
Maybe something with the light up functionality. There might be something else that you have to do with it. I don't know.
I know. I would be offended as a teenager.
Yeah.
Really, you think I'm going to hurt myself on a Lego set at 16,
Your mom
17
and my
years
dad
old?
would still have bought it for us. So.
Yeah. But yeah, just all the neat, quirky stuff, man. This goes back to just video game swag. There's even beyond video games. There's so much just weird little trinkets and items that are just game themed. But good find, man. Good share. I got a good laugh out of that when you sent me it.
I know. I texted to my friend chat, and one of my buddies he just types back WTF. And then I'm like, oh, it's like kind of like Legos. He's like, I don't get the point of this.
I don't.
I'm like, yeah, that's probably what a lot of people think.
Yeah. Nice. All right, man. I think that should do it for this episode. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks again if you made it all the way to the end of the episode. Greatly appreciate you joining us. You can find all our episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Where else we at, Mitch?
Yeah, our social media accounts. You can find us on X.
X. Oh yeah, we're no longer on Twitter. Twitter's dead, man. We're now on X.
X. That is at the Hills Are Silent. Our Instagram is Instagram/Hills Are Silent. Our TikTok is at the Hills Are Silent Podcast. YouTube, again, at the Hills Are Silent. Any questions, comments, any game recommendations? We want to hear your feedback. We will talk about it on the show. hillsaresilent@gmail.com. We will catch you on the next episode.